Christian Christman.
Hey.
What's up, man? Welcome to the show. Christian Christman is
biggest fan.
Whoa!
First and foremost,
we found him.
I know.
We found
you guys
him.
keep
Biggest
saying
fans.
that, but
words, man.
every time somebody comes on, they're like, "I'm a big fan." Well, I've watched almost every episode.
That's true.
I'm a few behind.
Almost every episode.
Yeah, almost every.
All
I like to save them. Okay, so if there's content that I like, I don't want to like run out of it. So like I have to savor it and then like watch 6 episodes in like a day and a half.
Nice.
That's how I do it.
Smart man. That is a lot of episodes in a day and a half.
Yeah.
Also a business owner, North Country Memorials, and the runner and founder and YouTube content creator for the Gravestone Pros.
Yes.
Shout out.
Yep.
We will link them in our bio.
Perfect.
For this.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're welcome.
Who doesn't love a good YouTube tutorial?
Who doesn't love it? There's some really fun ones on there. Like when you
Have
were
you watched
doing,
much of my YouTube videos?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I like subscribe.
Dude, you
comment, all
have
the
you have the
things.
best intro.
You like my intro with
Yeah.
Corwin in it?
No, just don't like every video you go. I've been making. What do you say?
Oh, you're talking about my TikToks.
Okay, yeah. That
I've
is
been
the best.
gravestones with my dad for 30 years.
It's
today.
so catchy.
Yeah.
That is great. It's
You
a
said
great
that a
line.
couple times.
A couple times.
I've been making gravestones with my dad for over 30
More
years.
than that, Christian's a father and a husband and a worship leader for his church, a lot of things. So we figured we would start out before we talk about some of those other, intricate topics, just about podcasting in general, I guess.
Yeah.
And kind of what we're learning. But you have the outside perspective, so you get to just tell us all the stuff we do terrible.
There we go.
But no, that's good. I'm glad you're getting something good out of it.
Yeah. It's fun watching you guys, like, little by little, seeing what's going on and that kind of stuff.
You need something?
Stop chewing my gum in the camera. Microphone. Get rid of my gum.
It's been fun watching you guys, like, watching the episodes, seeing you guys getting a little more comfortable talking in front of the camera and just like chat with people. And I love like internet and like the way YouTube specifically, I really like am fascinated. I guess like probably as it was becoming popular, I was at the right age to be like, man, this is really cool. And like, I was there for it from the very beginning.
Okay.
Like started watching YouTube videos and like internet, all that stuff. And so at one point when they're like, oh, like you can make money now doing this, that like really captured my attention. And so for years, like I'd watch different channels, and the most fun is when you find a channel that's good before like it blows up.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
it's really fun to like find a channel and it's got, sometimes that means like I found Mr. Beast when he had 2.5, 3 million subscribers right around there.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
like that's
tiny.
a lot of subscribers, but compared to what he is now,
no doubt.
it's like, man, I feel like I found him really early. It's like, but there's a lot of different ones.
You
that,
should
like,
go on his
you'd
videos.
seen. I know.
Shout out Mr. Beast.
Exactly.
That's fun. I got a few channels like that.
Yes.
But
I feel like
yeah,
you're
it's
the first listener.
It's fun. So it's fun, like watching you guys and like.
So when we're at 10 million, you're gonna be like, I
That's
was
right.
one of the
Be like,
first
that's
subscribers.
right. I know,
Let's
and
go.
I know you guys, so it's even more fun. But I like tech stuff. I mean, like we've talked cameras and talked recording equipment, and I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Production, like one of my favorite things when I was younger was watching like behind the scenes of videos and stuff, because I love to see like how do they actually make the magic happen. That's always been fun.
Yeah, there's a ton to learn. There's so much to learn. Like even as we're going through this whole process, now I'm starting to streamline things and a lot becomes second nature. But man, dude, just to know cameras and XLR cables and audio interfaces and live feeds and cameras and uploading and editing, it just goes on and on. The set, it's
so much
crazy
stuff.
how much work has gone into it already. And but no, it's been fun. It's been fun. I like the same thing. Like I love seeing the behind the scenes a little
and
bit.
we've talked a lot about that stuff over the years. Like,
especially video interview content, stuff like that. Has been good. No, we, gosh, I think when we started out, like the first few episodes, it was like it didn't feel very like cohesive and natural, and
it felt kind of awkward, and
it's just
see, like even watching. So I could tell like you guys haven't done a ton of it, but you didn't feel Like from the outsider watching, it didn't feel like, oh, this is really like, I know you guys, and like watching it was like, oh, those guys are really uncomfortable right now. Like that stuff doesn't come through, but I'm sure like thinking about it and like how you feel sitting there probably felt different, I would imagine.
Yeah, it worked out, but definitely it's gotten a little better, I think. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
Yeah. That's what's like with anything. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure.
No. Okay, so you are a business owner.
Yep.
What do you do?
So I'm second generation. My dad, Kurt, he was on
a lot of
podcast. That's right. I know.
I like it.
I know everybody, not quite everybody, almost everybody that you've had on. I know there's a few guys, Carrie and is it Ben? Was the powerlifting guy, coach?
Sam
Benzing. Okay,
yes.
I had that Ben in my head.
Samsing.
Yes, yep, exactly.
Exactly.
I don't know those guys, and there might be one or two others, but like most everybody that you've had on, obviously, I know who they are and stuff. But it's fun to hear, like anytime you're part of a conversation, you change the dynamic of that conversation, right? So like getting to kind of sit on the outside and like look at a conversation of people you all know without like you being there to interject, like there's something about that that's kind of fun and interesting and like it feels a little bit different because if I was here, like I'd be interjecting at points and then that would like change where stuff goes. So like just sitting from the outside and looking, like that's been kind of fun. I've enjoyed that aspect of it a little bit, and that's one of the fun things like podcasts in general, right? You can just put it on while you're doing other stuff and like you can like sort of consciously be like in the conversation and out of the conversation if you like have to do something quick, and so that's one of the fun things.
Are you an auditory learner or
I think
visual?
So I definitely, I mean, obviously doing something like, but I do a lot of YouTube tutorials to learn stuff. So you're getting the audio.
You and every
you're
guy.
And you're getting the visual, right? And so
I'm a YouTube professional.
Yeah. It's like, I get both at the same time, but I love audiobooks. Like I'm a big fan of audiobooks. My audio library, I think they were getting close to like 300 titles in my audiobook library. And so I definitely like to listen to stuff, and I have for a long, long time.
Is it easier for comprehension for you? Like for me, when I'm reading a book, like it doesn't hit the same as when I'm listening or watching.
It's easier for you to listen, to retain the information you're saying?
Yeah.
See, I don't think it makes
what are you laughing about?
I don't think it makes much difference for me either way, whether I'm reading or whether I'm listening. Like, I think my retention is probably similar either way.
Okay.
But I used to read a ton growing up. I read a lot.
I don't know.
Nick, what's all this laughing?
It sound like I read 4 books this year. No, you didn't.
You listened to it. Oh, you're that guy.
You're one of those guys.
You're one of those guys.
If you didn't read it, If you listened, you didn't read it. Okay.
Wow, he's a reading purist.
Reading snob over here. I didn't know.
I took the first shot. It's okay.
That's all right. That's all right. Anyways, I used to actually read a lot.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where audiobooks were cheap enough that I could get audiobooks. And
dude, your brain must explode.
Forget about
with a Kindle. Because that's sort of.
I have a Kindle actually. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Okay. And I do like audiobooks occasionally.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I like to.
You like to read it though. You don't like to listen.
You're I
like to read. I've always loved to read. I'll listen to audiobooks like when I'm exercising or going for a walk.
Right.
But if I was like, just sitting on the couch, I would read the book or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm being active, I'll listen to an audiobook.
Okay.
That's when I like it best.
Yeah.
Nothing pumps you up in a workout like a good drama audiobook.
Like if I'm going for a walk or a bike ride or if I'm driving, like when you can't hold the book, that's when I would like to listen to an audiobook.
Because you can't.
But I like them just fine, yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a joke.
For me, listening to a good Shakespeare while you're on the bench press. Too brutal.
200th. What if?
200 pounds, 4 scores years ago. I don't retain it. It's my I don't retain it as well.
My retention was always fine reading,
and
my retention is fine listening. It might be slightly better reading, but my retention of the information was high, but my speed of reading is really, really slow. I'm like a super slow reader.
Yeah.
And so audiobooks were amazing because I could get the content in way less time. Literally probably a third to a quarter of the time the audiobook would take me versus actually reading it.
Have you always been like that, or is that just,
always was really slow reading? And I remember one time like saying this to somebody and talking about audiobooks, and like, oh, I love audiobooks, and their comment was, oh, I don't like audiobooks, it takes too long to listen compared to reading. And I'm like, my mind was blown because I knew like I was a slow reader, but the fact that somebody was like, oh, I could easily read it like almost twice as fast as the person like reading it to me if I'm doing an audiobook. I was like, yeah, I'm like a snail pace reader.
So I'm like that person. I would have thought the same thing. In fact,
one time judge everybody else and make comments on a podcast.
One time I tried to listen to an audiobook. It was when I was like getting into like reading my first, like listening to my first audiobooks. Yep. And I was like, I need it to be a little faster paced. So I tried to put it on like 1.5 or 2 times.
Yep.
And I couldn't follow it. It was like too fast. So I'm fine to read faster, but with an audiobook, it's like I have to slow the audiobook down almost.
Yeah, I have to listen to it. I shouldn't say I have to.
That's interesting.
I can listen at 1.25, but I never do. I do not enjoy it. I like the normal cadence and speed.
Especially if you listen to somebody that talks fast, like Ben Shapiro or something on 1.25. It's kind of like when they go warp speed.
Yeah,
like
I can't imagine. That'd be even
times.
crazier.
Your phone just explodes in your hand. Yeah.
But bringing it back to business. So I got into listening to audiobooks at the time when I was working with my dad, and I was the shop guy. I was doing the hands-on stuff. I didn't have to have serious mental concentration to do what I was doing. There's a lot of muscle memory, just kind of doing the stuff. And so I listened to audiobooks a ton while I was working. And so I really enjoyed that. And from then on, I just always listened to audiobooks.
Okay. So you know what it is? Do you know you're saying like you go in and out of podcasts? Do you go in and out of audiobooks? Because that's why I can't listen to audiobooks while I'm working.
I do some.
I feel like I'm missing half the book.
I do some, but not too much. Normally, like if I'm there, I'm there. And if I find myself like, oh, I got off of it, like I'll just go and skip back. And normally at that point, I shut it off because I'm like, whatever I'm doing is requiring too much attention.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty good thing that you know that there's a balance there.
There can be, and it depends. Yeah. So like, okay, so I grew up. Dad started this business. We do monuments, gravestones, headstones, and growing up, I was doing a lot of shop work and a lot of this and that, and not really grunt work, but just you didn't have to be thinking critically about what you were doing. It's careful work, it's artistic work, but like your mind can kind of wander on other stuff as long as you're like focusing your physical attention on what's going on. And so I did that for a long time and then switched over to doing more computer graphic design stuff, that part of our business. And because we have to design each headstone and like put artwork on and decide where stuff's going to go. So doing all that kind of stuff, I switched into doing that. And I can still listen to an audiobook maybe while I'm doing some of that. But then like putting in information and data for like customers and contracts and like figuring out what stones I need to order and what cemeteries and any of that kind of stuff. I cannot listen to stuff or watch stuff when I'm doing that. So there's like large chunks of what I do now that's like it requires my actual attention. I can't just do my work and listen to something. So I kind of miss that part of it. Yeah,
it's like the mindless work that you can do, like mowing your lawn or something that's not like. That's when I retain most of like the podcasts I'll listen to or audiobook.
Yeah, doing that kind of stuff.
If you're focusing, but it's like you said, like if I'm doing something that even halfway needs my like full attention, then I'd rather not listen at all because I don't want to miss whatever it is that I'm. Yeah.
What about like music? Do you guys listen to music while you work, or like just audio, like noise in the background?
Sometimes I do. Yeah, like I go through phases where sometimes I'll put on like, so I put on jazz for a little while.
Oh yeah.
I put on like daytime jazz and just let it go.
Daytime jazz.
Yep. It's just like
elevator music.
Sound right?
Yeah,
elevator music.
There's different ones I just kind of like put on.
Jazz. Yeah, I've listened to jazz. When I remember in college, people would put on like earphones to study, and I never understood that.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Really? No. Because I feel like I was the only one. Like, I'm the only guy that doesn't like to listen to something while they study. It ruins my concentration. Whereas those people, it like helps them concentrate, but not me.
It can go. I can kind of understand both sides of that because there's times when like I put something on and then it helps whatever else is around me just like fades away. Yeah, and then I can focus on what I'm doing. But if it's the wrong thing or just even I'm in the wrong mood, it's like I'd be better off just putting earplugs in. Yeah, and like not having music or anything piped in to do what I'm.
Yeah, because I cycle topics too. Like
Yeah.
There's too much political content for one,
week or something.
Yeah, 1 week. Then it's like I gotta take a break,
Yeah.
or like I have different cues and playlists, and I actually listen to a lot of debates and a lot of like lectures and like mostly psychological stuff. But but no, like
that's fun.
I like the political stuff and for a time, and then I'm like I would rather listen to anything else.
Yeah, I feel like
And then I put on
specifically the
smooth jazz.
political, you can only take so much of it.
Daytime.
I put on elevator music and then I walk around the house pretending I'm in an elevator.
There you go. So fun. I think I have video of you doing that.
Oh, me doing what?
The elevator.
Blackmail.
You and Corwin.
Inside jokes.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, how long have you been in that business?
So Dad started in 91. And I was born in 88.
That was a great year.
And so like growing up, I remember just it was always kind of a part of life. I was homeschooled, so I was home all the time. Dad was doing home business, and so I don't really remember a time much before that. I can remember little bits before that, but not a ton. And by the time I was about 13-ish, I pretty much knew I did not like school, and I did enjoy working with Dad. And so higher education, I was like, nah, there's not a desire at all for any kind of higher education. And so from that time on, I basically would do as much as I could to get out of the house and out of my schoolwork and down in the shop working with Dad. And I remember like specifically that summer that I would have been like 13, turning 14, Corin was playing homeschool baseball. And I could have went and played. Do you remember doing that at all? Yeah. So I remember being like, okay, I could like go and hang out with the other guys and like play homeschool baseball. I was like, I really should stay and work. Like, and so like at that
How old were you
point,
at that
I was
point?
like 13, turning 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And so from that point on, I was kind of like, okay, this is like where I'm heading. This is what I'm doing. And like, this is more important than the fun of going and playing baseball. Because I love baseball. Like baseball is fun.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, this is what I should do.
Wow.
So for a long time. Now, when I turned 18, I bought in 10% of the business and became partners with Dad. And a couple years ago now, we went to 49-51. So he's still the controlling owner, but we're
Smart
basically
man.
50-50.
Smart man.
Yeah. So, and that's been really, Dad always trusts me pretty good to like run things and do stuff. So I always felt like I had a lot of room to like, if I want to make decisions or like do stuff, talk about stuff. And he's not a shoot down ideas kind of guy. Like he's like, all right, let's figure out. So for quite a long time, I felt like I had a decent amount of input into what was going on. Even before I was partners, like he was pretty good at listening when I was like 15, 16, be like, hey, let's try and do this way. And at that point it was more little things in the shop or processes of how we're doing stuff. But as I got older and moved into more of a management role and stuff, like he was always pretty open. But he's always been, he's more of the big idea guy than I am. I'm more of a like micro, get into like little details and little things. Whereas he looks at stuff more macro and like he's more the visionary, that kind of stuff.
So you guys are like co-managers, like Michael and and Jim on the office.
True.
Yep, exactly.
One's big picture, one's day to day.
You're Jim, he's Michael.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So that's okay, 49%. And then
Yep.
when did you decide like, all right, I should get this message out to YouTube? Like when was it like, I'm going to be you're a content creator.
Yep.
Did you know that?
So Corwin, who you guys had on as well, he worked with Dad and I for several different years, 2010 through 2015. And he was actually looking to buy into the business right at the end of his time working with us. He was like, all right, I'm going to buy in and like, you know, like, buy 10%, kind of like I had done. And then, yeah, like literally, I don't know, 8 months after that, he's like, yeah, I'm totally done. He went his own way, did his own stuff. Yep. But I think he was the first one that was like, more pushing to be like, oh, we should like start a YouTube channel. So we did like a few videos, but I was always the tech guy and like knew how to video stuff and knew how to do audio and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so we did, I think 4 or 5 videos and they're still up there. They're like our earliest videos on the channel. And then we didn't do, once he got done then and kind of left, I was like, I'm just too busy with too many other things.
Remember what year that started?
When we stopped kind of doing stuff.
No, like when you started the channel, like
so we would have started like 2015. Okay. Yeah. And so
9 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy to think about. It's been a long time. But then we didn't do anything for a long time. We didn't do anything for we did several videos, and then we didn't do any videos for 5 years until COVID. Oh. And at COVID, we were kind of like, everything's slowing down. We kind of have time on our hands. What are we going to do with this time that we have on our hands? And Dad was like, let's work on the YouTube channel a little bit. I was like, okay, that sounds fun. I really enjoy editing and making videos, and I had done, some of that kind of stuff, and I knew that I would enjoy it. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. And so in 2020, we started uploading once a month. We did that for about a year-ish, maybe. It wasn't quite a year, and then we went to every other week. So roughly twice a month we were uploading. Okay. And then after another little while of doing that, I was like, all right, we got to go to once a week uploading. And I did that then very consistently for almost 2 years. And now I've the last few months have been a little bit rough. So it's hard to know exactly where to go with the YouTube channel, because I got to the point where it's monetized, which that was okay. So tying back into being young and hearing for the first time you can make money doing YouTube, and I was like, okay, that's really, really cool. I can't imagine that'd be just the coolest thing. But to get from there to actually starting a channel was years before I even started a channel. And then once we started the channel and kind of did stuff, it took several years for me to get to the point where I was monetized. And that happened almost exactly a year ago now.
So how did that happen? What does that process look like?
So to get monetized on YouTube, you have to have a few different requirements. The hardest one to get, at least for me, was just the amount of subscribers. You have to get to 1,000 subscribers before you can take part of their monetization, which, congratulations, by the way, is 500.
Yeah, buddy.
That's awesome. I was looking, I was like, oh man, it took me so long to build to 500.
Well, there weren't Russian bots back then.
Well, maybe is that why you guys are just shelling out the money for those Russian bots?
We promoted a couple of videos.
Okay,
yeah, doing pretty good.
Yep. I didn't promote. Okay, so I didn't promote anything, which I do know that can make a little difference. But, anyways, it took me a while to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. When I hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, it happened at the same time my first video went viral. I mean, I say viral in quotes because I just looked at it the other day. Actually, it's got 150 something thousand views, which is a lot of views for me, but for other people, it's they'd be disappointed with that kind of outcome, right? Which is, it's kind of funny because it is all relative depending on where you're at. To be oh, you guys are at 500 subscribers. I'm that's amazing. I remember how long it took me to build to 500 subscribers. Yeah. And so I got to the point then where I was monetized. I looked back through, I made not quite, but almost $100 a month for the last 12 months. And some months were more, some months were less. But I averaged out just under $1,200 that I made in the last year. It was $1,180 or something.
That's pretty cool.
It's just it's obviously it's not crazy money or anything, but it's I feel I kind of made that goal of hearing you can actually make money on YouTube,
real,
and
tangible
I did that
cash.
And now I'm okay, do I want to keep pushing? Because I think there's a chance that you could push and make it so it's oh, you're making $1,000 a month. I feel that's feasible if I want to put in the work.
Yeah. Kind of like a dream come true moment.
Right. Yeah. I feel I kind of experienced that, and now I'm kind of okay,
how much do you want to put in?
What do I want to put in to hit the next level, or do I want to just kind of let it fizzle out and be that was fun? Yep. I have a really cool library for the content that I was making and the industry that I'm in. I think I have something that's unique. It's not a lot of people out there doing, not really anybody else doing
fun content around monument production
at all, or even content at all about it. There is some, but there is no other channel that has more than I'd say 10 videos for this industry. And I have, I think, just under 200 videos now, something like that. Yeah. So I've put out a lot of content around it.
Do you mean are you counting your shorts and stuff like that, or do you mean It says you have 244 videos.
That would be with my shorts. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I have just under 200, like full
longer
length,
form.
Yeah.
Yep.
Normal form.
Hey, that one video is 156. Is that what you said? 156.
Okay. When it was
What is that
152
one?
when I looked at it.
What was that one about? What was the,
So that was
Gravestone from start to finish.
Yep. It was just
how
we make a
Classic. I want to look at it right now. Actually, I've already watched it.
I already watched.
I need to know
Probably
the start to
comment.
finish process.
And that's the thing. Like, it's been kind of like, I'm not very good at like the thumbnails and like the titles and like, I'm not a writer. Like, so a lot of times if people read a lot, they like to write, or they're good at spelling and like grammar comes naturally to them. Not even slightly. Like, my worst thing ever is like sitting down and having to like write an email to somebody. I hate it. I'm not good at it. I have to spell check everything. I have to double check all the grammar stuff because I'm horrible at it. So like that's serious work for me. So even just something simple as like coming up with like a written title for something,
Your description.
it's horrible.
I
I hate doing that.
Are you like, you have an iPhone? Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you like generally an Apple user?
Yeah.
Or do you mix? Okay.
Yep. I do mix. I use both, but
like, so Apple has like a new feature on their iPhones where like it will AI paraphrase.
I've seen that advertised.
Like in an email, you
I've
can
seen
AI
that
paraphrase
advertised.
right in the email.
I should look into that a little
Yeah,
bit
dude.
more.
AI is getting wild with some of this
pretty
stuff.
crazy.
Dude,
And that might help me.
It would help.
Honestly,
it would.
it might help me a lot.
Yeah. You just got to write in your thought and then click the button.
Yep. Yeah, we have a program.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
We have a program called Opus Clip.
Okay.
Shout out. They'll sponsor us someday
Perfect.
when we get billions of subscribers
Yes.
or whatever. And what they do is like you just upload the link to your YouTube video.
Yep.
And then it will generate clips for you.
Okay. Yep.
So it'll generate
For your
like
shorts
30
and
to
stuff,
40
basically.
for shorts.
Yep.
And then you can edit them however you want and add your logos. Like there's lots of different things you can do.
Just take a clip out, or will it actually edit out your whole video into like a short form?
What do you mean?
So like I've seen your guys' clips for your shorts,
Yeah.
But it's normally for you guys. It's like you want just one part of this little conversation.
Yeah. They're a minute. Well,
For
shorts on
me-
YouTube are a minute
Right.
or less, which
Right,
is
a
too
minute.
bad.
Yep.
But
So for me, a lot of times what I want in that minute is
like
like
a highlight reel.
Multiple different.
right, multiple.
parts.
Like I want them to edit together that video. So when I make a short, at least when I started making it, I would take my 40 minutes of content or however much video I'd shot, take that down to about 10 minutes ish, and try to just make it the best video I could. So I didn't worry too much about time, but like trying to get around that 10-minute mark. And then from there to go in and do a short, it'd be like, okay, now how do I take that 10 minutes that was from 40 minutes and put that down into 1 minute?
Which is that, it doesn't,
which is a whole nother
as far
thing.
as I know, it doesn't do that.
Right.
But
they'd more take like, okay, my video with start to finish, they'd be like, okay, here's this little bit of the process, and then here's another video of this little part of the process, right? Like,
like shorts aren't good for like highlight reels as much. It's more like just snippets of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So like in a conversation when there's a million snippets that we could have, it's useful. But if you're doing something longer and trying to condense it,
Right.
maybe not.
Yep.
No, but this thing's awesome. It'll do your whole transcript.
Yep.
It'll, you can edit in and edit out. What do they call them when they're
transitions.
no, like B-roll. They'll throw like AI B-roll in there too. It's like you'll see them on YouTube sometimes when people are using those. But no, like it's literally, it will tell you the score of what they think like the virality score is.
Oh, interesting.
And if you should use that, and then it makes headlines, it makes headers,
Okay.
and it makes descriptions.
See,
So, like,
that
some
would
of
be
the
nice.
ones that
Even
we've
if I
been-
could just like finish my video, send it to them, and then be like, what do they give me for a description?
Definitely.
And,
Yeah, that's what they would do. And like it also is where you can like link to your socials too.
Yep.
So you can schedule them to send out from there, because I was putting them in there, downloading them, putting them into DaVinci. Then I was doing my own edits. Then I had to go to Canva to put it into a certain aspect ratio. And then I was like, that's a lot just for one reel.
yeah.
So yeah, it's getting crazy. Like AI's
Yep.
getting nuts.
Yeah, I should look into that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I'll have to
I'll
talk
show
maybe
you.
a little more deep into that off.
I'm not sure how it would work. Like with the, like maybe if you made your own highlight reel, something like that, and then did a voiceover. They do AI voiceovers too.
Okay.
It's crazy. But it'll write all your headers and all your hashtags and everything, and then your description even. And the descriptions are like way better than I can write.
Yeah. That might
really
be that might be something that would
It's a
really
huge
help.
time saver. I can't
Yeah.
I've never bought into. It's just now getting to the point where stuff is so good that I actually buy into it. Like
Like ChatGPT.
if you want to make a social media post for a business, your caption, like, and then you have to write the caption with the picture. Your caption will not be as good as if you Google AI generator and put that in and like let it generate and then copy and paste that. It'll be way
really
better.
interesting.
Like, it's like getting to be worth trying to use that stuff, and it's actually saving time.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
What's in your YouTube feed right now? What do you watch usually?
So right now I have went back the last couple days to Age of Empires 2.
Get out of here.
What?
Watching gameplay.
And
Dude, no way.
professionals. Like, dude, these guys are in.
We need to have
guys are
an
insane.
Age of Empires episode.
Oh, we could cast
3
it too.
computers, cast it up, and send it.
Well, that would
Age
kind of
of
get rid of.
Empires
I mean, if you
2,
had
baby.
4 different screens and you all had the same screen, you kind of figure out what everybody's doing, I guess.
Yeah.
But
That's true. No screen peeking. Back to the old days.
screen
Yep.
peeking.
Yep. Oh man. We used to have
Classic.
fun doing that.
Yep.
We used to have fun doing that. So, anyways, I've been watching a little bit of that.
cool.
I enjoy that.
I love going to the vintage games. It like just brings the memories back.
Yeah.
Like Commander Keen and like some of those. Is
Dude,
just
I have
like,
Commander Keen on my computer from Steam.
You don't have a Mac computer?
Wow.
I do have a Mac computer, but
It's-
I also have business computers.
Get
that are
that to
PC.
me. ASAP.
Stop by my office sometime. It's normally just
Descent.
sitting there.
Descent,
I never played Descent. I remember watching your brother play Descent, but I never actually played it.
Yeah, Tyson was a gamer. I feel like if Tyson would have been he was real good at games.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
very good video game player. And this was like in the
Tyler was not.
90s. Tyler, not so much.
Tyler was not.
On the old SNES.
I was 3 years younger than
Tyson.
Tyler, and I could normally always hold my own with Tyler in video games.
Tyson would just smoke everything.
Yeah, I never really even played against Tyson, but I always knew he was like
Yep.
good. I'd watch him play stuff.
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, dude, what a game. We used to have exactly what you're saying. Like everybody bring your own computer and
so
like
many
we would
wires everywhere.
Oh yeah,
yeah, wires you had to
yeah.
connect
Ethernet
everything.
cables going around. Yeah.
And it worked about 60% of the time.
Well, you spend 2 hours getting it set up and then an hour playing a game, and then
That's where the
everybody goes
memories are
home.
made, though.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
all
yeah,
in the
Definitely.
setup.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna find a video like maybe after this segment of the break. I want to show you this. These guys went to get Halo 3 or something in like 1999 or 2003, maybe it was.
Okay.
And like, dude, they're like, oh, we got to go to the store and get all the snacks and all the candies, and then we're gonna get this and we're gonna get that. And I was like, that was
back.
my life.
Take me back.
From like, I don't know, 15 to like 17, 18.
Yep. So much fun.
Mountain Dew, gummy worms, and
So much fun.
Doritos.
And like
lived on
like
it.
12 packs.
Yeah.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah, Doritos.
Yeah, it's a lot of
all the
fun.
stuff that has neurotoxins. Yeah. Anyway,
That's why I'm so
Yeah.
stupid.
dude,
Gaming,
so crazy,
gaming's
bro.
fun. So yeah, normally I have I've been playing Farming Simulator. That's the game that I've been playing
Whoa,
lately for
time out.
myself. Yep. Okay.
Time out. You're playing Farming Simulator?
Farming Simulator.
Dude,
yep.
what is the deal with that?
So I literally was just talking to my guy that works for me the other day.
Do you
at the
know what he's
shop,
talking
and I was
about?
like,
Farming Simulator?
these
Oh, yeah.
are like the
What is the
dumbest games, but like somehow it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I was watching. That's why we got talking about it the other day. He and I we were talking. Shane Gillis was talking about. There's like this game that like is like a. I don't even know how to describe it, but basically you're reenacting like battles. And like you play one person, and like your job might be to walk for 2 hours from like this town to that town, and like real like just step by
This is
step.
a video
like,
game?
This is a video game,
Like
and
a-
like
like
people
a
playing,
ultimate
and then
reality.
you get there, and like you're manning the cannon, and you're like, okay, reel it 2 degrees to the right, and you're like,
And then you stand guard for
and then
7
you just
hours.
stand, yeah, no, this is like literally
It's
what
like
these
taking
guys are
video
doing.
games backwards. Like video games made that stuff
Yes,
fun, and now it's back to being
exactly.
boring again.
Dude, how much do you have to hate your
crazy-
life
the
in order to go
crazy
and
thing
do
about-
that?
Okay, so with the farming simulator, there is a little bit of that you're like, I'm not quite sure how or why I enjoy this.
It's
Because-
literally like the simulator from The Office. It's
Yeah.
like it's what
Second
it
Life.
is. Second Life.
Yes,
It's so
like
boring.
that.
And then Dwight got so unenchanted with that,
here's
he
the
started
thing.
an own one within that one. He did the second
Here's
life.
the thing. This is why it's fun, Nick.
Go ahead.
Because there's a
Convince me.
challenge.
Convinced me. He
What's
said.
The
the
first
challenge?
30 hours of that game, literally 30 hours
Yep.
that I played that game.
Farming Simulator.
Yep, because I'd played other versions, and the latest version that I'm playing right now is actually 4 years old. It's 20, and literally the first 30 hours, I was like, I hate this game. This
Like
game
real life.
sucks.
Like it would be starting a farm in real
Bad.
life. Is that what you mean? It's like that
I don't
hard.
know, but yes, it was like
Or
I
business or
literally
whatever.
almost gave up on it. So I played like 3 or 4 hours of it,
Yeah.
and then I did not play it for like 2 years.
Oh wait. You're saying because it was boring?
because I was like, it felt like to get enough money to like buy the next tractor, to buy the next field, to like do stuff.
It's
it took so much grinding.
It's like realistic almost, or
I don't know that it's realistic.
You can probably make
but
the
the
timeline
challenge
realistic.
is real.
the what?
The challenge is real.
Yeah, okay.
So like you have to sit there and grind it out and like figure out how to do this. And then like I came back to it. I had put in like 3 to 5 hours on it. And then about a month ago, I came back to it because I started playing the other versions with my kids again. And so I was like, I got to try that newer version again and see like, and I got in and I was like, this is horrible. But for whatever reason, I was just like, okay, like I know how these games go. I know that if I keep grinding, like there will be a rewarding sense on the other end. And now I have like 2 huge harvesters and like a couple decent tractors and like I've got a big semi and I can truck in. Yeah, I can truck in all this stuff, and I own like the second to biggest field now. And like each time you like finally you're like, okay, like I'm over the hump of this horrible piece of equipment. I can sell it and like buy the next one.
Yep.
It's so satisfying feeling because it took me 30 hours to get there.
Dang.
And it makes it rewarding, and that is why it's fun.
So that brings us to the next topic:
It's really
purpose
silly,
and time management.
Yeah, about that, I'm really good in those areas. I never waste any time.
I started seeing guys like playing like the same concept, but like with tractor trailer driving.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of
And
thing.
then I started
I can
seeing
see Ezra doing that, but that would actually like there's probably actually some utility to.
Well, I genuinely
Maybe, I
didn't
don't-
realize
I don't
if they were like making money in
Simulators?
some virtual world doing this. Like I was so confused,
Oh,
and
Pat
then I
Harney had
realized,
a flight
it's just a
simulator?
video game.
It's just for
a
fun,
video
yeah.
game. Like
awesome.
because okay, so you know how like a couple years ago, there's the buying real estate in virtual became a big thing,
right? For like a little while there.
Yeah, what was that about?
So then I started seeing these truck driving videos, and I legit thought like, oh, like
They're like trucking stuff in this
somebody's
world.
paying them. Yeah, like some weird systems like actually taking hold. It's good to know that now I learned quickly and was glad that it's just a video game.
I just
then I started seeing the
saw
farming
a
simulator
short
stuff.
today that was talking about. It wasn't a short; it was a TikTok, so it was longer. It was talking about Pokemon Go.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And that Pokemon Go
That was a
actually a company that was like trying to figure out like AI navigation stuff and like AI mapping. And so they literally like created this game where you have to like walk around and you have your GPS on because it goes with the real world where stuff actually is.
Through your camera,
and then
right?
like if they wanted to get they want to get photos of like this area of this park or this whatever. Boop, they put a Pokemon there, and then like people will go and like they take the photos because that's I never even played it, but you don't like it. Why?
Sounds super sketchy.
It is super sketchy, but it's also genius because they took
Agreed.
They need more
would've-
maps for their farming simulator games.
Maybe that's it. But they took what they would have had to pay like people to go and like do, and they literally made people interested enough to go and do it for them. And in a lot of cases, like microtransactions and stuff, like they're getting paid
Exactly.
for somebody to do the research for them. So for me,
it's hard to differentiate.
Congratulations.
It's hard to differentiate.
You have won.
It's hard not to compare that to like, oh, this is just an advanced form of the old data stealing. Like now we're just like willingly submitting to it. Like that was sketchy. Even if it's legal.
But
it's
talk
super
to somebody
sketchy.
that's playing the game. Like, are people ticked off? If people are ticked off, and they're
Well-
like, okay, I shouldn't say now. If people find out that the information was being used for something else, baloney. But if they played the game and they enjoyed the game and they got enjoyment out of it, then the person that created the game kept up on their end of the bargain. Here's an entertaining game.
How much transparency was there on the real reason why this game was created?
Oh, I
the
doubt there was
users?
any.
That is the part that's
I doubt
sketchy.
there was any.
It's probably in the very tiny
That's the part that's sketchy.
That
at the
can-
bottom of the.
But
terms
my
of service.
feeling-
Super genius, though. You're right.
My feeling on that is like,
Yeah, very.
I'm not going to read those stuff. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's
We
sometimes,
don't read any, we don't read anything. None of that stuff.
Like,
Do you know that you don't
I've
own any
decided-
of your 300 audiobooks?
I'm sure. I
You
believe it.
license them. They can tell you what when you if you buy a book from there's a reason why libraries and like CD stores exist. It's because when you buy a copy of something, copyright law says that the original artist doesn't own the rights to a copy that you purchase.
Right.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
And then the digital stuff happened. And
Yep.
anybody who sells digital copies of things like Amazon, when you click that buy button, it really
Yep.
should say license, because in the fine print of that purchase, Amazon's telling you, you are not purchasing this, you are licensing it from us.
Right.
And if you try to treat that digital copy like you would a physical copy, they
sued.
could sue you for it. Like, you don't own anything anymore if
Yeah.
it's a digital copy. We don't, but you don't. Nobody knows that because we don't read the fine print.
Right. And that doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't really even bother me as long as it doesn't affect me in the real day-to-day. If it starts actually affecting me in the real day-to-day, then there'll be a problem. But my guess is at that point, that's why we have a government, and that's why there's oversight committees that will look at stuff and be like, wait a second, you can't do this anymore. Some people will be irritated and whatever, but I feel like our systems work for that kind of
And
stuff.
then they'll cry about it and do nothing about it.
There'll be corrections, and that stuff is needed.
Yeah.
But I feel like that stuff works for the most part.
Yeah, there's something.
Maybe it's because my life is too happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
You
way
know,
too happy. Can you knock it off?
You don't think
that's-
about the bad stuff enough. You should think about the bad stuff
That's
more.
the problem. And I'm like, I'm an optimist, definitely not a pessimist.
Yeah.
So when I look at that kind of stuff, I'm like, I'm sure like there'll be excesses. Like, do I want everybody to just like create a game to control and get the information they want? Like, yes and no. Like, if they're doing something, they're creating something, and like all these people enjoyed playing their game. Like,
What's scary
I don't
about the digital
care.
stuff is that it's not. Yeah. What is scary about it is the future of who controls. You ever read the book Fahrenheit 451, where they burn all the books?
Yeah, in school.
Yeah.
You wrote that.
Yeah.
I've never read it, but I've seen.
Yeah, it's like the government doesn't like books because it creates too many ideas, and so they ban books, and everybody believes that books are bad.
Right.
So, like, when everything is streamed and everything's a digital copy, who decides? Like, here's a good example: if a copy of a movie were to stop selling physical copies, but it's still like, say, it's still out on like a streaming service, that streaming service is the last stronghold for that copy of that piece of art. And as soon as the streaming service decides to stop showing it, poof, there it goes.
Right.
Well, now everything is being made for like now like hard copies aren't being made anymore. So there's like a switch to, so like there were never like anything new that's coming out, no more hard copies. Everything's digital.
Right.
And when these digital purveyors decide to stop to eliminate them, they can, and there's no control over it.
No,
and like
I
everything is
definitely
going
agree
like
there's-
more and more that
I
direction.
definitely agree there's issue there, or potential for issue there, I should say. And I will not be surprised if like there will be stuff that's like, no, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I feel like the free market wins out because
It's so,
like, okay, cancel culture and like all that stuff.
yeah.
Already we're starting to see that swing back and be like, this is ridiculous.
Boycotts, you mean?
Yeah. What do you say? Like, what would you say about the free market winning out when we know that companies like own everything? Like Google owns everything. So is the free market winning? Google's actually being like, I don't know if they're being sued by the federal government, or somebody filed a complaint and requested that the federal government force Google to sell Chrome.
Okay.
Because they have a monopoly on the search engine in the search engine world. Yeah, something crazy. But before
Landmark
that,
antitrust case. The government asked a judge to force the company to sell its popular Chrome browser.
and then not be able to compete in the browser search engine or the browser industry for 5 years.
It was filed in 2020.
So that's a good example. Look, anyway, so like we know that there's what were we talking about in the last
United
podcast
States versus
about?
Google, 2023.
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about something specific. I think maybe it was with Ezra, but there's just examples of monopolies all over. Do you remember what it was?
You guys were talking about that.
We
Ezra,
did
about
mention that,
monopolies.
yeah.
So
And
like,
there
is the free market winning? I don't know.
I think it's not set up that it's supposed to be allowed, but it is happening.
Yeah.
And nothing's being done about it except for this. It's exactly what they're doing. So it says
We'll see if anything comes of it.
ongoing antitrust case brought to the United States Department of Justice against Google. The suit accuses Google of illegally monopolizing the advertisement technology market. In violation of sections 1 and 2 of the Sherman Antitrust Act, which, by the way, was what we mentioned before. And the Sherman Antitrust Act, that have to do with Standard Oil too?
Yeah.
Was it?
Something like that.
Standard oil.
Let's look at it.
Yeah, that would be a massive, like, because that would mean like any Android phone you buy doesn't have Chrome on it anymore. Like it affects like so many of their products. Like people buy
Unfair
phones
monopolies,
because
okay.
they know it's going to come with Google stuff on it. If they're to think that if you buy a phone and you can't get Chrome on it, like this is a massive hit to their business. But you know what? Maybe it should be.
Yeah, I'm not against pushback on any of that stuff for sure. And like, but I think that our system will make the corrections. Like, that's what I think. I don't think there won't be abuses or there's not abuses. 100% there is. But I feel like our system will correct it.
Yeah, there are examples of that happening, like with the whole the Apple having to switch to Lightning chargers because they were trying to monopolize, they're trying to proprietize their. Yeah, like there are some wins, leaves some room for encouragement that
I think
the market
right now,
will
like the biggest thing that
always
I'm
dictate,
concerned about right now is like anti-repair stuff.
That's a good point.
That I think is one of the most
huge
serious issues.
Right. Did you learn that from your farming simulator game?
Yes.
Do they let you fix the John Deere's in your farming simulator game?
I don't have to fix anything in my...
He had to go and sit in a lawyer's office for 6 hours.
I'm playing like the mobile version from 4 years ago, but a new version literally just dropped like 2 weeks ago for PC. Dude, and I'm sure on that one, probably.
That's a fantastic point.
Standard oil.
Yeah.
If I was concerned about like one big thing, like my iPhone.
Yeah. The battery is glued in.
It's bullcrap.
Yeah.
Because
you can't
even
fix your
at
iPhone.
the beginning of iPhones, like you could kind of do a little bit of stuff, but it's moved so much far past that.
And it's as simple as most of these companies just say you void the warranty if you try to fix it yourself. Right. It's honestly boils down to something as simple as that sometimes.
But they're also built in that they can't handle technologies for certain ages in the future.
Yeah.
And then here, have our update. Oh, your phone doesn't work anymore. You have to get the new one.
Yep.
You know how
there's some weird stuff with that.
It's as ridiculous as they'll use copyright or proprietized screws in these products that nobody makes a screwdriver for, so you can't fix
they make
like
them. You can get them. I've got ones that are like
China,
for Apple. And
it's crazy. But that's a good point. The repair stuff is like that's
the right to repair. The right to repair initiative. That's something I'm like. I think that is a big issue.
That's the licensing issue. You are licensing people's products.
Yep.
That's the problem.
But I think that'll get fixed though. Like I think that our system will fix it because as more and more people realize, like, hey, this isn't good. I think there'll be pushback on it. But
there has to be pushback. People have to do the pushing back, right?
Yep.
So like it's one thing for people to say that there's these issues and then do nothing about it. A lot of people do that, or they'll complain.
Right. Or what? Like I don't know what to do about the fact that Apple won't. I mean, I can just not have a smartphone, but that doesn't seem practical this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah. It literally does. It just comes down to everything we buy is licensed, and you don't have a right to do anything with it's not even your property anymore.
Yeah, I do think that's an issue for sure.
It's crazy.
The Standard Oil was a footnote. Standard Oil versus New Jersey in the Sherman Antitrust Act, so they're sort of related. Yeah, there's. I think you're right. I think the pendulum swing is on its way back. It seemed like when you look back even a decade, I think we were going the wrong way, and maybe it's the market correcting itself, or maybe people have just had enough with big corporations.
Well, and I look at too, like we still have free speech in this country. And there was there was assaults made on that in the social media realm and like deplatforming people and doing that stuff. But what did that do? That took Joe Rogan, who is an extremely left guy in most all of his opinions and his stuff, supporting a right-wing candidate for president because he like is a normal dude, or I guess he's far from a normal dude, probably as far from a normal dude as you can get. But I think he literally is happy to sit down and think through stuff for his own thought. And when he did that with as many of the smart people in the world as one person could probably get together and talk with, he kept moving slightly farther right, slightly farther from the far left, and being like these are serious issues. So if that can happen, I feel like there's hope. Yeah. People aren't gonna go. And it wasn't even the fact that he changed. It was the fact that after everything happened and the election was lost, the other side looked and they're like, we need to create a Joe Rogan. And then there's other people on the left, like Bill Maher and some other ones that was like, you guys are so lost. No, you don't need to create a Joe Rogan. How did you lose Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan was so far in your camp 3 years ago, 4 years, he was Bernie Sanders. And he's still, if Bernie Sanders was the candidate versus Donald Trump, like he's voting for Bernie. So it's like, he's not a right-wing dude. So like the fact that like the left doesn't even realize yet. But there are, I've heard enough people that are definitely left-leaning. They're like, no. Like free exchange of ideas is important. Like not decensoring, but not censoring people, not deplatforming people. Like these are losing ideas. They're not going to work. I feel like that's like it's starting to swing. And whether like Joe didn't swing on any important issues. He didn't swing from left to right. Just the left got so far over that he's like, well, I guess I'm over on the right now. But as it comes back, this probably might be the only time he ever would endorse a Republican candidate. I wouldn't be surprised if he never does again, knowing how much I know about him, like the amount of stuff I've watched on him.
Yeah.
Like,
if any, it's crazy. The amount, like, I just do not, there's a really popular left-leaning social media commentator right now who recently made a video saying, like, it would be best if all of his opponents, like anybody on any right-wing commentator in his eyes, he said it would be best if they would just not be allowed to make content. Their opinions couldn't be heard. And not once did me as like a Republican, like a pretty Republican, probably classical Republican, but I'm more of an independent. But anyway, me thinking like I would be labeled as a Republican and a more conservative mindset.
Right,
not once did I think, no, your opinion needs to be taken away. Right. All I thought was, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like if to take a moderate stance doesn't exist in some of like
some of those circles.
The deplatform everybody's people, type of people's minds. Like how about just like don't say stuff like that? Not like we need to take your voice away. It's so
bad ideas need to be combated by good ideas, not by like trying to rein them in and shut them down. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't relate to that. That's the first thing you think instead of just saying I disagree with that. The first thing you think is
you should
don't let them say anything.
Yeah,
else.
Don't let them talk.
Yeah, and I think that this last election that was a big like swing. People were kind of like, all right, one side here is trying to ban opposition, jail opposition, whatever else you want to say there. Yeah. And then the other one is like, I don't agree with you, but I think you should be allowed to say it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I still understand it.
Yeah. And that's where, like, I understand the left. Trump said stuff about, I'm going to set up a special prosecutor for the Biden family and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I just was watching something, J.D. Vance kind of doubling down on it, being like, well, if there's wrongdoing there, like, it should be investigated, it should be done. And, like, I understand why people on the other side don't like to hear that, because I don't really like to hear that. I'm like, okay, yes, if the Biden's family did stuff and, like, whatever, like, yes, it should be investigated and it should be being looked at, but, like, it shouldn't come from the top down. Like, that stuff should come from inside of the organizations that are meant to take care of those things. Like, it shouldn't be Trump being like, okay, we're going to appoint a special prosecutor. Like, that doesn't look good. Even if the Biden family should be investigated, which I'm not going to say whether they should or shouldn't, but whether they should or shouldn't, Trump shouldn't be the one to be like, we've got to go. Like, you just can't have that. You can't have your political people going after each other, using the government as a weapon. Like, there's just no place for that in our democracy. Like, we have systems. There's people whose jobs it is to look over that stuff and to pay attention to that stuff and, like, to bring indictments. But for him to publicly be like, well, I'm going to take a special process and, like,
I don't know.
It's just not the right look.
I don't know if they think
it's not the right way to do it.
I agree. I don't know if they think it garners votes and that's why they do it, or if they genuinely think that they should be. But if it's not going to, I mean, whether it earns you votes or not, but like if they knew it didn't earn them any more votes, I would hope that they would think the same thing.
Yeah.
I got to think it's just for votes.
Yeah.
But it's not the right thing.
Yeah.
There's probably a subsect of followers that are pretty passionate about that. Going after wrongdoings like
corruption and
I think a lot of MAGA supporters would say like they were saying lock Hillary up for a long time, and the encouraging part is he didn't do it.
That's right.
So that's one thing.
For me was a big thing.
I totally agree with you. You can't weaponize the government to go after your political opponents. Obviously, we would call that banana republic anywhere else. But also,
it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good. There's conflicts of interest everywhere. Even if you're well intentioned, it doesn't matter. It's a losing issue. Don't do that. And what I see from the left all the time is they double, triple, quadruple down on losing issues. You can't do that. And like, if the right starts to do that, then I would happily call them out on the same stuff. Like, I don't like the sounds of that, like you said. So,
there's stuff that you're not happy with, but it is what it is.
Overall, you think it's okay. We're all right.
I think we're gonna. Okay. I look at it and I'm like, I think we're gonna be all right. Like, if you look at civilizations like through history, like they all fall at some point. And so, like, I'm pretty sure that ours will at some point. I don't have any illusion that if God doesn't come back beforehand, that the West will fall and like something else will have to come up, because It just tends to be what happens. But I don't know. I don't think we're on the verge of that. I think we're a ways away from that stuff.
That's good.
I think we felt like we were close to it a little bit during COVID. Maybe it was like things were tense, and there were people that was upset. But it's like, I don't think anybody has much stomach for actual revolution.
How much of that do you think is just gaslighting from the media? Because, dude, I can specifically remember, like, when everybody's in their house and they're locked in their homes and all they have to watch is basically 2 news channels or maybe 3.
Yep.
And they're pushing their agendas. And then you go out in, like, the real world, even with all that was going on, and you're like, oh, people are still kind of normal out here.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, the normalcy has to win. The middle ground, the people who have some common sense are going to win. Yep. And, you know, silent majority or whatever.
Okay, kind of a weird question. Since we're back on the COVID thing, did you...
Did it originate in a lab? Banned on YouTube.
Did you guys panic at all back when with the business? Like, fearing, you mentioned before, like when things slowed down a bit or whatever.
Right.
Did they slow down? I mean, I imagine it did because
they did.
You know,
a third of my business.
I mean, your sales might have increased by less than 1%, but I doubt it.
Yeah, our
our
2020 was about a third less revenue. Than a normal year.
Third less. Okay.
Yep.
It's any indication.
Don't start talking about death rates.
So many people died though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very morbid question, but yes, fair question.
What? Yeah. How did you? Yeah. So you're a good example of a business that like it did not go great.
No. Yeah. It was
like how
it affected our business.
What happened?
For sure.
What did you do to?
So one of the reasons that we decided to do the YouTube channel was because one of our main marketing strategies has been to go to county fairs and meet people, shake hands, talk with people, put ourselves out there in front of people one-on-one. That's always been kind of our best marketing strategy, really our only marketing strategy. We don't do advertisement on radio. We don't do TV. We don't do napkins at your local restaurant, or not napkins, but you know what I mean? Like, menus and all, you know, we just don't do any of that kind of stuff. We really never have, or we've done very limited amounts of it. And so our biggest thing was going to county fairs and going to like 2-3 day festivals or shows, showing up, setting up a display, meeting people, talking with them, giving them a discount of incentive to buy today and to do it now. Yeah. So because we couldn't do that, we couldn't get out to people and do that. Yeah. That's a big part of our business.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I imagine that, like, joking aside, like, it's people just stop thinking about buying a monument for their future. Cause really you're buying for your future most of the time. Do you think?
For that, a lot of it, yes.
How does that work? It is. Is that most of the monuments that you sell, or is it
a lot of what we do for the fairs certainly is pre-buying, doing stuff ahead of time.
People could just stop thinking about buying a monument for a couple of years. That's kind of what you experience, you think?
Yeah, and because we get there, we put it in front of them. For us, like, people have this on their mind. Yeah. Once they hit a certain, I don't even know if it's an age, grandma and grandpa pass, depending on the age they are, or when their parents pass. Definitely by that point, like if their parents didn't have anything settled, they want to get stuff taken care of because it's a tough time. And so to have a $3,000 or $5,000 or $8,000 expense that could have been taken care of 20 years ago, like, and now they're having to figure it out now, a week after grandma passed, like. So people choose to do it ahead of time so their kids don't have to go through it. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest thing for me to sell, is somebody that's just been through it with a parent, and they're like, we want to get it done so our kids don't have to. Mm-hmm. So because we weren't there though, those people at the fairs, think about it, right? Because we weren't there at the fairs, we couldn't do that. And people need to be. It's not buying a 4-wheeler. It's not buying a motorcycle. Those things are fun. People think about them. They research it. I've been getting into fishing the last year. Like, I think about fishing boats. I go on. I look at fishing boats.
Real fishing or like on your farming
Fishing
simulator.
simulator.
Yeah, real fishing, not on my farm.
You get like the Oculus.
Yeah, exactly. So like
That'd be like me really fishing.
I think about fishing, and I look up boats and like look at Marketplace and see what's going on. People don't do that with monuments. It's not that fun.
You're in a tough
but in the
business.
back of their mind, now
It's
and
a
then they're
necessity.
like, I need to get that taken care of, and like it'll come up at certain times. So for us, we go and we get in front of people, and we're like, hey, we can make this easy. Let's do it now.
Would you rather be in a business, as far as sales goes, where you're selling a necessity versus something that people are thinking about and want? Like four-wheelers versus monuments. Like one's a necessity, so it's like, well, that's good. This will be easy to sell.
Yeah.
But like, which one is easier? Something that people are always thinking about, like four-wheelers and fishing poles and the latest stuff, hunting gear, like stuff that we want, consumer stuff.
It'd be more fun.
Yeah.
It'd be more fun, I think. But part of what I get to do is when there is a need and when there's a family that's just had a tragedy, they come in. I know that I'm going to treat them fair. I know that I actually do care about them and like want the best for them. And so for me, when they come in, it's not just like, oh, good, I get to make a sale. Like, yes, I'm glad I'm making a sale. Like, I need to feed my family. I need to keep the business going. There's all that stuff. But at the same time, like, I'm glad that I can take care of them and I can not price gouge them, because you can, like, even being super careful about it, people will spend more money when they come in and somebody just passed. Like, I've never actually done like all of my sales, but I guarantee you, if I took all of my sales that were pre-need and all of my sales that were time of passing, guarantee I'm going to guess somewhere between, I'll say on the low end 20% and the high end like 60%.
Not because you price gouge them, because they bought more
because they are
expensive
going
material.
to spend more money.
Yep.
Because that's part of what we do in this country. Like, as we're grieving, like that.
Yeah, it's an emotional response.
Yeah, and so I know I'm not going to like plan those things. Like, I'm going to do my best to help.
A business owner.
Yeah, the fact that you focus on the pre-need stuff is pretty telling. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not
because
out to
it'd
get
be
people.
right. It'd be better if everybody would come after. Technically, for my business,
20%
they'd add
better.
They'd add extra stuff. They do,
Sure.
but it's not about that. So there's a lot of satisfaction in knowing that we really pride ourselves in taking care of people, and like this is a really hard time for them. And so when I have people come in and like we take care of them and we get done, and at the end they're like, "Thank you so much. Like, this was a really hard thing, and you guys really made it smooth, and you guys really made like." That's when you're like, I'm glad we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It'd be more fun to sell four-wheelers, but I'm glad that we're here for people in their time of need. So yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
for that reason, there it gives some purpose outside of just trying to make a transaction happen and making money.
Yeah.
It definitely feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, your reputation is way more steel proof. Like, you can't treat one person wrong. We've talked about this before, in a small town especially. You're out of business.
Yep.
It just doesn't work.
You have to take care of
Do
people.
do like monument businesses like have like a bad reputation? Do you think, or I don't know, like is
Like
that
used car salesman or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't think
No?
so.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know.
I don't think so. I know like the funeral industry as a whole, and like I think funeral directors get the bad rap, and like
really?
it's the
Why is that?
Just because you're trying to
Mostly-
deal
Taking
logistics
advantage.
with people who are
mostly
grieving.
what you
Upselling,
hear is right. The upselling, and it's kind of funny because they have switched now. Used to be it was all about the casket. Like, they made all their money on the casket and like doing the service and like taking the body and doing all the stuff that they do to make up and make it look nice and embalming and all that kind of stuff. Like, they didn't make much money on that, but then like they make all their money on the sale of that casket, and all the other stuff is sort of like just there, and it's part of the services that they do. People freaked out at one point. Like, people kind of realized how much money they make on the casket. And so there was lawsuits and there was things. And so now like the price of the caskets have gone down, but You're going to get charged for setting up the chairs for the service. You're going to get charged for the time and the amount of service. You're going to get charged for the amount of miles from the place the service is to going out to the cemetery. Like they had to like break up all their costs.
Do you think it was an effort to like make it easier on the family and that there wasn't any ill intent behind? Like here's one price.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I wonder.
I honestly have no clue what the intent. My guess is it's like most things. Probably for some people there's great intent. In other guys, there probably was not great intent. You know, and just depending on. But as a whole, like the industry kind of went through a shift because like people found out, oh, they make a lot of money on this casket, and that's ridiculous for a wooden box to be charged that much. And so I don't think the funeral directors were like, okay, like we're all going to make less money now. I'm pretty sure they just basically had to change how they did stuff and make it like a little more transparent on what each fee was and each thing. And then people could decide, maybe I don't want this, or maybe I do want that, or
like, was the response not like, look, guys, we're hardly making any money on 90% of what the service we're providing is. The 10% is where we have to make it.
I have no clue. Most of what I saw from that was sort of like gotcha journalism from like Insider or whatever, and they like show up and they're like, tell me how much money you make on the, you know, like camera in the face, like super, and then there was like undercover stuff, and there's
like
I think in
upcharging.
any I think in any industry there'll be some of that, no matter where you are. You can find bad actors, but because it's at the time of death, like it's such a sensitive thing, and like everybody in society is like, okay, like we're going to take care and protect people. Like people should be taken care of and protected at this vulnerable time.
I drove past an oncoming hearse today.
Oh,
and
you
like
pull over?
No. Oh man, he hit a pothole so hard. I could physically see the back go boom. And I was like,
if there's a casket in there, baby.
He wasn't like leading a procession, so I'm assuming he was coming back. But I was like,
oh man,
oh no.
He could have went though to go get the body.
Maybe.
Cargo may have shifted during flight.
Why is never mind. No more jokes.
Mrs. Johnson's gonna need a little extra work when we get back to the.
Why is the lid off?
You guys ever watch like Just for Laughs?
Dude,
They're a French. No, they're French Canadians, and it's all like silent, but it's all like setups of like crazy things, and then it's like candid camera, hidden camera stuff. But one of the ones they do is like a casket, like you know somebody's walking by. There's like a hearse there, and somebody's walking by. They're like, "Oh, can you just like hold your hand on this for a second, you know?" Or like because they're like on a hill, like don't let it roll out, you know. And then like as soon as the person like turns their back, right, like. They like push it, so like there's no way you're holding it back. So like it just comes out and like pops open,
and the body, like there's
pops
like
open,
a person,
or
inside.
it'll be like you know, or it'll
terrible.
be like, oh, can you just you know maybe it'll be sitting on flat ground. It'll be like, can you just stand with this a second? I gotta run back to the truck and grab whatever. And then like as soon as the person like turns and walks away, like the thing flies open. The guy like sits up, you know, like it's so funny. Like that's like they have a million different like those are just a couple of the like Casket
one of the
sketches,
ones I
there's
love.
so many funny
one
ones.
of the ones I love that they used to do is they had like a, I think it was a roundabout or maybe it was a Y or something. They had like construction. They had a cop on each side, and each of them was giving opposite signals the whole time to one car. So like one guy was telling him to go, the other guy was like,
in a roundabout. Nonetheless,
they have a lot of ones where they like do police stuff, like they're dressed as police. There's a ton of them. Yeah.
All right, so let's move off of that quick. I think we might lose a battery, so if we do, I'll just jump off and we'll reset it. But I wanted to get some of your insights on parenting. How are we doing for time, Nick?
Good.
Some important stuff.
Good. What time is giveaway?
Talk about all this other stuff.
6.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, some people would say the important stuff.
Parenting.
Yeah.
I think the important stuff. Yeah. Like going back to all the politics and all the stuff and whatever, like for me, it all comes back to like the nuclear family is so important, and like having a good childhood and a good home life like sets you up for success, and it's proven in statistics and stuff. But
so how often do you yell at your kids?
Every day. No, okay,
so what do you do that makes you a terrible
father? Oh, jeepers! There's plenty of room to feel like a failure in it, right? Like
dude, like every day.
There's it's a hard job. It's a hard job. You're so invested in the outcome, like more than anything else on the face of the earth. Like the outcome of how your kids do is like
so much that you can be like detrimentally invested in the outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard, and to know where that line is, like I mean, I think you skate it. I think you go back and forth to like, okay, like I got to let up a little bit and like loosen the reins on this. And then you're like, whoa, too much off. Like I got to grab. And then you're like, you end up like two holding on. I feel like that was my parents were amazing. No parent is perfect, but I think my parents got the majority of it really, really well done. I've told my dad for years he should write a book about parenting. Like they made a lot of really good decisions in how they did stuff. Not perfect. He'd be the first to admit, far from perfect, but yeah, a lot of really just wise. He sought a lot of counsel, read his Bible, read a lot of people that had good things to say about it and executed on it, I think, really pretty well. But one of the things that I always felt like mom and dad did that really made a big difference was they knew how to let go before we were like got to that point. Once your kids hit, obviously in the young stages, like you kind of have to dictate things to your kids. You have to tell them, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Like there's a lot of that. But when we got to the point where people rebel and like kind of go off the rails, like it felt like every time there was like a decision before I was ready to be like, okay, no, I want control of this area of my life. Like dad and mom would have like backed off and we're like, here, you make your decisions on this now. And because of that, I felt like there was nothing to rebel against because there was always room to grow and like to hit that next stage of like learning and responsibility. And like, I feel like they did that amazing.
So are you saying, just to clarify, are you saying that at all the random moments when you felt like you wanted to be in control of some aspect of whatever is when your parents would think maybe this is the time to give him that control?
Before I'd even get to that most of the time, there wasn't even friction because they were giving responsibility and freedom faster than I could want it in a lot of ways.
That's good.
And so, yeah, I never had a curfew.
Okay.
There might have been like a random night here and there when they were like, be back by here. Mm-hmm. But literally probably that almost never happened.
And it wasn't a problem.
It wasn't a problem.
Do you think that was unique to you or just as your personality and that wouldn't...
It worked for me and it worked for my siblings.
Yeah, okay. Because that's tough to... That's a risky... People would think of that as a risky way of parenting, but...
So I got to know your kids.
Sounds pretty good.
By the time we were at the point where we were wanting to stay out later, our parents had full trust that there was not an issue.
Yeah. I think a lot of parents can't imagine giving like what you're saying, giving control away little by little.
Yeah.
That's
I think it's a hard thing to do. And I don't think it's a clear thing to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think it's at all clear when it should be done. But I think the concept of shepherding a child's heart and that whole idea of like having that actual relationship with them. And then like, that's the foundation. I think that's the key. Punishment is a horrible idea. Kids shouldn't be punished. They should be disciplined. And there's a big difference between them. For me, when I look at that, it's like I punish them because they have ticked me off by doing something and I'm ticked about it. So I'm going to make them feel miserable about it, which I have done. There's times when like, versus I want them to learn and grow. And I want them to realize that their actions are going to have consequences. And I want to give them consequences that are little today. So that when I don't have the choice to give them the consequences and it's life giving them to them, they'll already be learning how to make good decisions. Mm-hmm. It's just a totally different mindset. And I think that concept, along with I've tried hard to not be lazy with it. I've tried hard to, when it's the most inconvenient to parent and to like be on top of stuff, to be like, okay, this is important. And I'll go into situations thinking like this might be not an easy time to parent. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to be vigilant today versus if I'm just at home and like stuff, I can let stuff slide or let whatever. But I try and be really thoughtful of like, this is when other people are around or I'm in the middle of a conversation and there's like something, and be like, okay, I don't want to just like drop that at this point. I want to make sure to address it because it's inconvenient for me right now. And I think that makes a difference too. It's, I don't know. You have to know when to have grace. You have to know when to like let stuff go. But I think the littler they are, the more on top of it you are, the better. And like your kids learn, your kids train. I'll never forget. I was with somebody that I knew and grew up with that was going through a parenting moment where their kid was doing something they didn't like. And there was a few of us around and talking and this and that. And the parents kind of like, hey, stop that. And then they turn back and like talking. And the kid just keeps doing like as if they had not heard a thing from the parent. Not that they didn't hear, like they looked like, I know they heard, but they did not care at all what the parent had said. And so like we're talking and they're like being more disruptive. And they're like, stop, mommy said, stop. So you're like, okay. And then come back to the conversation. We keep going. And the child did not pay any attention. They kept going. And then they turned like, that's 3. And when she said, that's 3, the kid stopped, doop, perfect behavior. And it was like, oh, that kid's really well trained. I wouldn't have realized it because it took a couple times. But when that person was like, okay, here's where the line is, that kid knew where the line was. I'm like, how annoying, though, to wait 3 times. Like, the conversation was interrupted, the person was interrupted 3 times. Why not just make it, when I say it the first time, like I mean it the first time? It just, I don't know, it baffled me because it's like they had the kid trained really well. Mm-hmm. They had just trained him that the first couple times I say something, I don't give a rip about what I'm saying. Do whatever you want until I've told you that, like, I really care. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why bother? Yeah. That just, it confused the date. I mean, I understand kind of, but like on the other hand, I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm too lazy for that kind of parenting. Mm. Like, I want my kids to respond when I say it the first. Yeah.
You got to do it 2 more times.
Yeah.
Being,
and it's
frustrating.
like I always loved Jordan Peterson said, don't let your children do anything that will make you or others dislike them.
Yep.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
That was really interesting because it's like, just letting them have their own way, letting them do whatever they want. Like, it sounds nice. But if you let them become somebody that other people don't like, you are doing a huge disservice to your children. Like, the most important relationship in their life is you. And if you don't like them and you don't want to spend time with them, you are like, that is a detriment to them. Mm-hmm. Like, train your kids to be somebody that you want to be around and want to spend time with. I was like, that's really interesting.
It is hard. It is hard hard. I can see why it's challenging to get a child to respond on the first command, and why it might seem easier that they respond easier to the third command, like almost like they need time to process or whatever. But it's like, if at 9 months your child understands some level of correction, mm-hmm. What do you like? They understand at 3 how to obey the first time. Like, I think parents don't often underestimate the intelligence of their children. Yeah.
It's interesting. So my youngest, Cedric, he's 3, about to turn 4. And about a week and a half ago, I realized if I said, okay, it's time to be done playing Farming Simulator.
Yes.
Right? That huge sigh. Yep. And then I realized it's when I say it's time to go to bed. Like the big sigh. And I realized, like, everything that I tell him that's not something he wants to hear is like a big sigh. And I was like, okay, I'm done with that.
Or him and Isla are 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Same thing.
Like, you can't do it. And so I said, okay.
How do you handle that?
I told him. Tips? I said, listen, this isn't allowed anymore. I realize we've kind of been letting it slide for I don't even know how long. Like,
how old is he?
He's almost 4. He'll be 4 in like
super close,
a month.
Okay.
And so I said to him, hey, like, this is not allowed anymore. When you do this, you will have immediate discipline. And every single time he has done it for the last couple days, he's had immediate discipline, whether it was convenient, whether it was inconvenient, whether we were out at church. Like, no, there was consequences immediately. And it took about a day and a half, and it got so that you didn't hear it anymore. And then over the next couple days, it was like here and there a couple times. And now it's been a week, and I won't be surprised. There'll still be times, but it's not just a normal default for him anymore. Yeah. And now I can look and be like, okay, if he's super tired and it's 10:30 at night because we ended up out at somebody's house and we get home and he's, you know, like, let that go.
Right.
Like,
they're beyond the ability to reason.
You got it right. You've got to think. But during the day when it's like normal hours and like stuff is normal, like he knows. It's not a fight anymore. Yeah. It literally was a day and a half of being like very consistent. In between like that evening, between when I told him to that and like him going to bed, he probably had discipline 5 times. And the next day, I don't know, I was gone most of the day. I'm working, but I know Elizabeth said he had several through that day. And then he probably
I'm going to sigh all the time.
But I told her too, and that was, you have to be on the same page with it. And I said to her, it's like, you've got to stay on him about this. Like, this is important. It needs to be taken care of. And if it's only me doing it, like, it's going to be way worse for him versus we can like very quickly get this done. And so she stayed on it, and the next day, I don't know how many through the day, but then that next evening, maybe 3 that next evening. And then like by the next day, it was like 1 or 2. And since then, I don't even know if it's been every day, but it hasn't been very often. But I also like, I try and set him up for success too. And be like, you hear people talk about like, let the kids make their own decisions, that kind of stuff. And there is like, that is at war. I shouldn't say that's at war. A lot of times I think the people that I hear that are like, use like very rigid discipline, and the people that are like, let your kids make their own decisions, are on like different sides of the spectrum a lot of times, and they wouldn't have a lot of common ground. But I feel like I use both because I'll be like, hey, bud, in 5 minutes, it's going to be bedtime. Now, remember, if you have a good attitude, we can have hugs and kisses in bed. If we have a bad attitude, we'll have to have a discipline in hugs and kisses in bed. So just so you know, a few minutes, it's going to be time, and you're going to have to decide how you want bedtime to go. Like, I'll do that to like, because he is little. He's got a little braid. Like, he doesn't necessarily remember. So, like, doing some of that kind of stuff and being like, hey, letting him know what my expectation is for those kind of things makes it so that he can kind of decide that there's times when it's like you're grumpy and you're in an attitude and like doesn't matter what anybody says, you're just kind of, you're going to be grumpy. But there's times when you can tell like they can process that and be like, yeah, I know what bedtime will look like if I make this choice, and I know what bedtime will look like if I make this choice, and this one's more fun than that one.
Yeah, I think it's really important to get in on that, the choices conversation early. I'm finding your champion is like, what, 14, 13?
Champion?
Yeah.
No, 10. Almost 11.
Dude, I'm so bad with ages. I'm so bad with ages. Like, is he starting to get his teeth? He's getting teeth in? Is he out of diapers? Whoa. I have no idea.
Sorry, you just said champion and then you said teeth.
No, I know champion. I'm terrible with ages. Like, I don't know when babies get teeth. I don't know when they're potty trained. No, I'm joking.
I thought you were serious. I was like, I am so lost here.
Yeah, no, I know that Castle is like,
I think
isn't Castle like 12 or 13?
Yeah, Castle's 1 year older than Champion.
Oh my gosh. So he's 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have guessed that Champion was like, or
he's
that
11.
Castle was 13 or
Castle
something.
turned 12 in
Champion's
January.
10.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so this is like right.
They're 11 months. They're 11 months apart.
Yeah. Okay.
Castle
so
and Champion.
Levi's 7, and like I'm starting to have. So like, do you remember what? So that's good. So Cedric is how old? 4.
Almost 4.
Yep. So you're having like a choices conversation with him now. Now, if he like chooses to have a discipline in bedtime kisses and hugs, like he probably doesn't. But the idea is that
he does sometimes.
Hopefully, he understands that like. So in his mind, he's like. So he chooses the bedtime and then also the disciplines. And you told him that it's his choice.
Yeah.
But when after he's made the choice and he's receiving his discipline, and then he's, having this time of, you know, some tears afterwards. In his mind, in his 4-year-old mind, he's thinking, you know, Daddy just disciplined me, and not, I made a choice, right? But like eventually he'll get to an age where, which, you know, they're kind of lying to themselves, right? And they'll get to an age where you gotta like call him out on that. Like, because I've experienced recently, like noticing that my oldest, who's 7, will, if you don't teach them, you got to keep on that choices thing, because they could potentially grow up thinking that the world is the reason for their strife,
right. It's
instead of their
them.
choices.
Yeah.
And like, you know, one example was like, the privilege was taken away because instead of cleaning their room, they lollygagged, and it took way too long. So they lost the privilege.
Yep.
And the tears afterwards are, Mommy and Daddy took my privilege away. And I'm like, I can't let him cry about that.
Yeah.
I have to go in there and tell him, this is why you're actually crying. You're crying because you lost a choice, but you think that you're crying because the world has punished you. And like, that is not true. And if you don't like keep that choices conversation going, I'm starting to realize that is what leads people into growing up thinking that the world dictates their circumstances and not themselves. And at 4 years old, that you're like having that I don't know that I was having that specific of a conversation with my first 2 4-year-olds, but I should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
I don't know if I would have with my first either. Like cause I'm in it with Cedric right now. So it's hard to remember, like, when did I pick up this?
4?
He's 4. Yeah.
He's
number
your
4.
4th. Number 4. Yeah.
Oh, he's your youngest. Okay.
He's the youngest.
Wow.
He is 4 and he's the 4th. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right. Duh. Yep. Yeah.
A boy, 2 girls, and then Cedric. So yeah. And I don't know when I did it with Champion. Like, I feel like I did pretty early on with him as well, but I couldn't tell you with any certainty.
He seems to have like the built-in moral compass. Was it a little easier with him?
Cedric is the hardest. Yeah. Champion probably was the easiest.
Yeah, it's apparent.
Although in the last year, trying to figure out how to parent on the next level has been the hardest stage that I've hit so far. I remember people always talk about the terrible twos, right? They talk about the terrible twos and they talk about the teens. And I'm in that like pre-teen right now with Champion. And I remember being like, terrible twos, people are crazy.
Same.
What are they talking about?
I agree.
Like, with some intentionality and like being really intentional and like spending time with them and then having very clear boundaries. Like, the 2-year-olds respond really well to that.
I thought the terrible twos thing, it didn't make any sense to me.
And now, like, I'm getting to that pre-teen stuff and I'm like,
oh crap.
It's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know totally.
You got a free ride on the terrible twos. you got dues to pay.
I feel like, again, watching my parents and how they did stuff, and I feel like what they did with us is very different because I'm in a very different situation with work. I was home. My dad was home every day, all the time. I'm gone and I'm working. And I don't have a ton of opportunity for Champion to come work with me because what I'm doing is in the office. It's not out in the shop stuff as much. And so I don't get a chance to work with Champion. Like, I worked with my dad from the time you're 6 years old. You're working with Dad. You know, maybe you can't do a whole lot, but you're learning to pick up a piece of wood and carry it and drop it on the chute to go down to the basement. Like, you're doing that kind of stuff all the time. And I have not had that with Champion near as much. Not even close to what I had with my dad. And so I feel like I'm not sure totally what to do with that because I can't totally change what I'm doing and where I'm at, but it looks different than what growing up looked like for me. And so, like, I kind of have to navigate that. And that's feeling like one of those, okay, Lord, I'm at a loss here for what to do. You're going to have to give me some wisdom and
or seek it out from people who have been in similar situations that you're in now.
Yeah.
For their kids.
So that's kind of where I'm at. The younger ones, I feel like parenting, it's not easy, but I feel like I had a pretty clear road to follow. And now I feel like I'm like, okay, the road to follow is sort of running out a little bit. I'm gonna have to figure stuff out a little bit on my own as far as where I'm at, and do more of my own research. And I've I've listened, Nick, to a lot of books on parenting. I don't know if I've actually ever read a parenting book, actually, but I've listened.
Those are the toughest. I'll give you that. I'd rather listen to them too.
Oh man, there's some good ones though. I've got some really good ones. So I probably need to listen to some books and get some information for kind of the stage that I'm in. I just went through the pre-adolescent tapes with Champion this summer. I feel like there was some good stuff there to give us
guardrails.
Yeah, a base to talk about and be like, hey, remember we talked about you're going to have some of these feelings and you're going to have some of these thoughts.
Uh-oh.
And like, it's okay.
Oh, I thought you were getting to like the birds and bees stuff. Oh boy, buckle up!
Look out! That could be.
Let us know how that goes.
we did talk about that stuff as well, but more talking about like the emotional changes that are going to happen, and how that's going to affect who you feel like as a person. Oh
yeah, self-esteem, confidence, responsibility.
There, you know, some of that stuff's starting to come up, and you're seeing it a little bit, and you're like, you know.
A couple notes to pull from what you just said, and we'll start to wrap up here. But I think people get the word discipline confused with punishment.
Yeah.
Like it's in popular culture. It's like if you discipline your kids, you're abusing your kids.
Yeah.
No, that's not what discipline is. Yep. And also, even just by the word of it, remember Tyson brought this up when he was here talking. He's talking about how the word discipline has subroots of discipling. Mm-hmm. And the Latin subroots of it are instruction and training.
Yep. Yeah. Do you want the world? Do you want the world to be the first to show your children what discipline looks like, or would you rather be in control of that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just common sense.
Whatever that looks like is important to know where you're at too. And you said gauging yourself and understanding when you're disciplining out of anger or rage or
when you are fear, punishing,
like that becomes punishment.
Punished, and
obviously that's not the healthy way.
The funny thing, like sometimes punishment doesn't necessarily mean it's more severe than what discipline would be, but it's just like you realize you're coming at it from the wrong motive and the wrong heart, and you have to apologize to your kid and be like, hey, like what you actually did there and what Daddy's response was not proportionate, and like I'm sorry, and like
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Like trying to, if you think of like, do your disciplines or your responses to the crime or whatever, whatever they did.
Do they fit the crime? Yeah.
Yeah. And like how that should be could be directly related to like that's how kind of the world operates. When they grow up, your actions are typically met with, the punishment usually does fit the crime. Mm-hmm. And so like you should maybe try to parent that way too. Like, it's interesting. I've never thought about that correlation, like overreacting to a situation. Yeah. I'm using punishment and crime in the wrong context.
Trying to find the purest form of justice.
Yeah. Like it should be justice, just like out in the real world, like there is justice to your actions, and consequences usually do fit.
Yeah. And the idea of that's why the whole idea of justice being blind, it in some ways is twofold, because partially is like you shouldn't see who's committing the crime for the crime. Like that's kind of how it's interpreted a lot of times in our justice system. But like when you start to look at the crime on its face without emotional responses from yourself and not knowing how the child is going to respond is also part of being the order of being in the middle and not committing to something that's going to be detrimental. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Tyson mentioned that as well a long time ago when we were speaking in a small group about how his children responded discipline differently, and they humble themselves at different speeds, and like you have to know your kids.
Every single one. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yep, so true.
But and that's one of the things too. I try and be really, really careful about how I speak about somebody else's parenting style and like how they do stuff, because it's like I have strong feelings on how stuff should be done. But at the same time, like I realize that my children are not their children. And like people's children react differently. People's children need different things at different times, and parents are at different places at different times. How about
your parents aren't their parents? How are they raised? How are they brought up? What did they see? What were they around? Who were they around? Like when you look at data for fatherless homes, and you're just like, imagine being from a fatherless home and then trying to figure it out all for yourself. Like you're saying, you're in a different phase now because when you grew up, you were with your dad every day, and now you're in a phase where you're a similar age and you're not with your son every day.
I'm not there.
It's different, and that's a great nuanced approach to have to it. It's very easy to look at somebody, say no to their child 3 times, and then they figure it out on the 3rd time and be like, that's wrong, but like, perhaps when they were growing up, they had none of that. And that's a good stepping stone for them.
That's exactly. Yeah, you gotta leave grace for people.
Do you do okay with that? Or I'm wondering, like, do you struggle with not being around as much when you had a childhood that it was like, your whole life, it was kind of framed one way. And then like, do you struggle with that now? Or have you kind of made peace with like,
struggle with it as far as what?
Like, thinking that, 'cause I struggle sometimes with like the rat race and like, shouldn't I be home with the children? And, you know what I mean? Like, do you struggle with that because you were raised where dad was around and now you're kind of like the opposite modeled? Like, have you come to peace with that? Or
I feel like I'm at peace with it for the most part because I know that I'm where God has called me to be.
That's good.
Many, many years ago, I was in a spot where I felt like, I don't know that this is what I want to do with my life. I was already like in partnership with dad, and I was like, man, I don't know. They're like, I have other interests. I have other things. And I kind of started praying about it a little bit, and I felt a very hard no from the Lord. Like, I have you where I have you. And so that takes away any of the anxiety of like, am I spending enough time at home? Am I like, there's still, you have to balance obviously that stuff, but I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I know that I'm in the will of the Lord and in the big picture at least. And so that takes away any of that kind of feeling, I think, for me.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, look, man, we had a great time.
It was fun.
Yeah. We'll definitely be having you again.
All right.
I mean, this is too easy, too fun. Everybody's a repeat guest, so.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks for being generous with your time and coming and hanging out with a couple doofuses.
Always enjoy spending time.
Speak for myself, dude.
Anyway, no, thanks for coming. Thanks for sharing. And if anybody's looking for that YouTube channel, it's Gravestone Pros.
Gravestone Pros.
Check them out. Check them out. And you'll be hearing from Christian more in the future. So,
all right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
See ya.